I'm homeless and no one knows. I've been homeless for 13 months now. I've slept in the park, in a library, on the train, and just once on someone's couch. I survive off minimal government assistance and here and there odd jobs. No one realizes I'm homeless until I actually spell it out for them. When I meet people and I feel like they're trustworthy, I let them know. It's usually a mutually beneficial relationship. I'm a talkative person with lots in my past, and people help me out with favors or gifts. But it gets annoying. I can't hold down a full-time job. Everything I need to survive I am lugging in a 40 pounds backpack. Keeping clean and neat looking means that I rely on opening hours of public faculties, library, parks, bathrooms, to wipe myself clean and charge my phone battery bank. Well, those are the same hours that a regular job would normally be. I may have a shot at a change. A guy I know works in a small 24/7 supermarket and might get me an overnight shift working there. Minimum wage, but I can invert my schedule, sleep, clean, charge during the day at the library and work at night. Would actually be advantageous in my situation. Everyone, take care of yourselves and be mindful of your mental health. 2 years ago I was stable and making good money. Now I am on the street. It only takes a few mistakes for everything to fall apart. Be well. Ita for telling my niece I can't help pay her college. My 52M younger brother passed away 10 years ago to cancer. He left behind an 8-year-old daughter at the time. About 2 years after his death his wife got remarried and they moved to a different state, taking my niece with them. Apparently her new stepdad was good to her, and when she was around 14 he adopted her and she took his last name, and she basically ghosted our family and said that she doesn't want anything to do with us anymore. She even kept rejecting my mom, and she ended up passing away a few months after that due to a heart attack. We all suspect her getting rejected by my niece had a huge part in it, and after that we just didn't reach out to her because we were honestly angry at her. At that point she was 15, not an adult but old enough to know what she was doing. A couple of months ago she reached out after years of silence. She asked for her part of mom's inheritance and I told her there was nothing left for her, which was true. Everything was left to me and my sister. Then got mad and started cussing my dead mother, and I told her to shut up and show respect. She said she's starting college and that her parents have financial issues right now and can't pay for it, and she demanded I pay for it as it be only fair as it'd be my late brother's share of the inheritance. I told her she shoved my brother away years ago and has a new dad now, and that I'm not paying for anything because the inheritance wasn't big anyway and it's all almost gone with my own children's colleges. She called me a disgrace and an asshole, and she tried guilting my sister to give her money next, and she too refused because she isn't that well off and her inheritance went into paying off debt. She's still harassing me for money. Honestly, if she was genuine and polite about it I'd have helped her out, but after years of disrespecting her late father and our entire family and demanding money on top of that is too much for me. I don't want to call the police on her out of respect for my brother, but she's really making it hard on me. And I feel like it's important to state that I'm not really rich. I just don't struggle because I've always been good with money, but I just can't give anybody a college fund out of nowhere. I've been saving for my kids ever since they were born, and the inheritance just helped me a little bit, but to her that must mean I'm some millionaire. How do I deal with her without involving the police? Is that even possible? The Luxor, Pyramid Hotel, in Las Vegas is accursed. I'm in sales and Las Vegas is a part of my territory. Although I don't live there, I spend lots of time there for work and need to keep my hotel bill under a certain amount in order for my company to reimburse me. The Luxor is cheap, has a good valet parking, and is close to my work event. Plus, I never stayed there before, probably has some dated charm to it. I thought, fuck it, why not? When I walk into the lobby I felt a mix of uneasy and curious. The Egyptian theme is so dated, yet the architecture was so ambitious for its time it's hard not to appreciate it. I get to my room and I just start laughing. This is the worst hotel I've ever stayed in, by far. It was built in '93 but for some reason feels much more dated than that. I always get a room with 2 queens everywhere I stay. BC hotels routinely skimp on blankets, so I take the blankets from one bed and bring them to the other so I'm cozy. I do not bring over any pillows since I had enough and wouldn't be able to lay down straight with 6 huge pillows. Anyways, I wake up early, work out in my room, shower, housekeeping knocks on my door while I'm getting ready. I had to really yell for her to hear the room was still occupied. That's kind of annoying. So I put a do not disturb sign on my door handle which stays on for the entirety of my stay. Right as I get ready, the fire alarm goes off. This is the first time this has happened at any hotel I've ever stayed at, I thought. While evacuating, security told me our elevator was shut off, but the opposite sides were still functional, meaning the alarm was triggered somewhere on my side of the resort. Had to take the fire escape down from the 12th floor. I googled Luxor fire alarm, and I guess this happens a couple of times every month. I wondered if this was the case with every hotel in Vegas, but chalked it up to it being so cheap, attracting a lot of riff-raff. I come back to my room a few hours later to meditate plus clear my head for a work event. I beeline straight for the window and check out the view. Then I look at my bed. For some reason the pillows from the guest bed were stacked up, parallel on top of each other, 3 high, on my bed. Nothing was stolen, and I'm not sure if anything else was misplaced. I wouldn't have remembered the previous location of any other objects in my room, but I knew for a fact that I didn't do this. Kind of gave me creeps at first, but then I thought, security probably was looking for the cause of the fire alarm and looked in my room even though I had a do not disturb sign. Then I thought, but why would something that triggers a fire alarm be under the pillows of the guest bed, and why would they stack them up so neatly on my bed? But I was there for an important work event and was trying to relax before, had better things to focus on. I dim the curtains, lay down, and take deep breaths. 20 minutes in, my manager calls me, says he needs me to cover a meeting for him. In a rush, I throw on my things and leave, not touching anything else in my room plus leaving the curtains closed. I don't come back until after my work event. Got back to my room around 11. I open the door and my brain's alarm goes off. Something doesn't look right. The curtains were wide open. I knew I didn't leave them that way, and again, nothing was stolen. This freaked me out, but I was trying to mentally justify this. I thought, I just turned up the AC this morning and the windows are diagonal. Maybe the draft opened them on their own? And I could also just have ADHD'd it, opening my windows on autopilot and forgetting I did it. I had to gaslight myself to sleep that night. Told myself it was just my ADHD and it was in fact me that opened the curtains, but when I thought of what the room looked like when I was leaving earlier, it was dim. That scared me, had to switch my mental channel. I had to imagine myself opening the curtains and forgetting, and pictured that so many times it seemed plausible. I didn't shower that night out of fear that if something was messing with me it might take me being naked, wet, and vulnerable as an opportunity to escalate. I prayed hard while constant bumping and tapping occurred throughout the night. Chalked up the noises to loud, unruly neighbors, but the whole time I never saw anyone leave or enter any of the rooms around me. In the morning I looked at the curtains, still closed. Wasn't a draft that opened them yesterday. I got on a call with my team, said I was excited to leave because weird shit keeps happening. They asked what I meant and I told them everything. One of my colleagues, who was a Vegas local, told me the Luxor is notorious for being haunted and cursed, and this is a well-known thing people have said about staying here. As I was leaving, I ran into a security guard outside the elevator and asked her if security goes into rooms, even if they have the do not disturb sign on, if the fire alarm is going off, to see what the origins are. She basically said they can do that on paper, but she doesn't remember a time they have done that. I told her about the pillows, then about the curtains being open, and she wasn't giving me anything, so I straight up asked her if the place was haunted. She told me no, and that she's never heard that and no one's has ever reported that to her. I thought, weird, maybe my coworker just knows a couple people who are bullshitters. Maybe all this stuff was in my head. I asked the front desk about security going into rooms. She said no, never. I then asked about guests reporting objects moving in their rooms when they're gone. She again said no, never. Has never heard that. Wasn't giving an inch. I then said, all right, be straight with me, is this place haunted? Have any other guests ever reported unexplainable things happening in their room? She said, no, never. Haven't heard that from any guests. That's terrible, somebody moved your stuff around. You should file a report. I smiled and said I was all right, BC, nothing was stolen. I then Googled, is the Luxor Hotel haunted? If nothing popped up I would have dropped it, but boy, it was obvious that this point employees there are trained to gaslight. Ghosts are bad for business. Not only is this a common experience among guests at the Luxor, but it's one of the most common experience among travelers. It's incredibly well known and documented to be a paranormal hotbed. I'm glad I didn't know this while I was staying there, or else I wouldn't be able to sleep. In the Google search results, the fourth result was a 3-star review about the 12th floor being haunted. I stayed on the 12th floor. Not only did I stay there, But my room was the closest to the elevator, right in the middle of the 12th floor. The most 12th floor room on the 12th floor, if you will. I guess this place has been cursed from the very beginning, with lots of deaths in construction, mafia deaths buried beneath the property, allegedly. For suicides between its opening in '93 and now, a couple of murders, and accidental deaths from safety hazards on some of the attraction. I heard the shape of the resort doesn't help, but I'm no expert. Saw a figure run past me and into my daughter's room. So it's 2 a.m, I'm trying to find my boo mark that has gone missing. I'm looking all over the bedroom and can't find it. I see something tall move behind me and pass me quickly out of the corner of my eye. It booked it into my daughter's room. I thought on instinct it was my fiancé because it was tall and skinny like him. I then realized there was no way he could get in the bedroom, ours or our daughter's, without me knowing. On instinct I screamed bloody fucking murder. I screamed his name out and ran to our daughter to make sure she was okay. Obviously she was startled awake because I just screamed, but he looked all over her room. And ours. Nobody there. I said I know it's not a person and he just rolled his eyes at me. He doesn't believe in the paranormal, but I know what I saw. He said it was probably my hair moving and scared me. My hair was up in a bun. No, it wasn't. It's now 3 a.m. Fiancé and daughter are both back asleep, but I can't fall asleep. I'm too freaked out. Still never found my bookmark either. I talked to my brother and he thought maybe it could have been our dad. He passed in 2022, about 10 months before my daughter was born. But our dad was short and chubby. It wasn't him. Edit to add, our bedroom is connected to our daughter's room through a closet. That's where it ran through. The day I thought I was going on a date but ended up on a wine tour bus. Last summer I was in Italy with a few friends. One night I chatted with a local guy at our hotel. Really charming, funny. At the end he asked if I'd like to go for a walk and wine the next day. In my head that meant a romantic evening stroll with a glass in hand. The next morning I showed up in a summer dress, small bag, sunglasses. He was standing next to a tourist bus holding a sign that said Chianti Vineyard Walking Tour 8 hours. Turned out he actually organized the whole tour and just needed a few more people to fill the bus. It was one of those painfully awkward days when you realize halfway through that this was never a date, just work. I tried to act casual, but I'm sure my embarrassment showed the entire time. 8 hours, 4 wineries, way too much wine, a mild sunburn, and 2 days in bed later he actually asked me out for a real date. That last night made up for everything. Before leaving Rome I threw a coin into the Trevi fountain just in case the universe decides to bring us together again someday. 10. Please help me figure out what I saw last night, and why it gave me such a horrible feeling. This is my first time here and I'm genuinely asking for help. I have felt and heard things all my life, but rarely seen something clear, until last night. I was driving back home in the middle of the night after a hangout with my friends. It was around 2:30 a.m. I live in rural Italy and I was completely sober and aware of my surroundings. I was on the main road when suddenly I spotted a faint, still, orange light on the right side of the roadway. It was like 150 meters ahead of me, and hovering above some bushes. It gave me the feeling of something that was peeking above the bush. Initially, I thought of some kind of road sign, but it was too dim and small, or maybe someone holding a torch or Halloween lantern. I have lived in the same place since I was born and I have taken that road countless times, probably every night. Never seen something similar in that spot, and yes, I do recognize animals' eyes, and it was nothing like that. As I was approaching it my car, the light slowly, and very steadily, slithered away from the bushes. I could see the light was attached to something, or someone, but my headlights weren't close enough to light it up. I just looked as this thing crawled to the far right of the roadside and hid behind a tree. The only thing I could clearly tell was that it was not moving like an animal, neither human. It looked like it was attached to something that was creeping, sliding. It was still and steady. When I reached that point my car, I slowed down to take a look, but absolutely nothing was behind the tree. It vanished. I saw it for what was probably 10 seconds, but it couldn't have been a more clear sight. I had a horrible gut feeling and I felt like I had to puke, like I was looking at something repulsive that I wasn't supposed to see. I'm having trouble sleeping, even though I have had similar experiences. The unexplainable. Has someone had a similar encounter? Can someone help me understand what I might have seen? Thank you in advance and sorry for the long paragraph. My husband's hiding a terrible secret. My husband and I were watching the Texans destroy the Ravens when I asked Nick if he wanted another beer. Nick let out a grunt, which I took to mean, yes, my beautiful and loving wife, I would be thrilled if you brought me a beer. On the long walk to the kitchen, I checked my phone and saw the dreaded red battery. So, I took a detour to our bedroom to plug it in. That's when I saw it. On my husband's side of the bed was a charger I'd never seen before. Black and bulky. It was long enough to reach all the way across my side of the bed. Get lost on the way to the fridge. Nick whispered in my ear. I jumped. Don't do that, I said, smacking him in the shoulder, and then adding, what's with the new charger? My husband flew across the bedroom, yanked the charger out of the wall, and stuffed it in his bedside drawer. I've never seen my husband move that fast. You weren't supposed to see that, he uttered. My husband was hiding a terrible secret. I could tell from the guilty look on his face. Nick, I said in my most polite and understanding voice, why did you run across the room to hide something I already saw? Okay, Nick let out a deep sigh. I'll tell you. Thank you, I said, crossing my arms. I didn't want you to see that charger, Nick confessed, because it cost me $57 at the come and go. Heh. I know money's tight, and it was stupid to pay that much, but it was an emergency. I was waiting on a call from my boss, and I couldn't find mine, and I panicked, and... Don't worry, I interrupted him. It's fine. Really? Nick asked. Really, I said. Now let's get you that beer. Nick was lying. A wife always knows. I conferred with my friends and they all said the same thing. A new charger means a new phone. A secret phone. A phone he doesn't want me to see. So, I told Nick I was going to the movies. Then I drove around in circles and came back home. I snuck in and quietly headed to our bedroom. If Nick has a secret phone, I'll bet he's keeping it in that drawer, hiding it in plain sight. And if Nick is cheating on me, I'll divorce his ass so fast his head spins. I gently crack open the door to our bedroom and freeze. Nick's sitting in the corner of the room, his eyes closed. He's using the black charger again, only it's not plugged into a phone. It's plugged into Nick's ear. There are soft lights blinking up and down his neck, some of them yellow, the others green. Holy shit. I slowly close the door. What the fuck was that? I tiptoe back to the stairs. You weren't supposed to see that, Nick whispered, and then shoved. My girlfriend doesn't come home until 3 to 5 a.m., if at all. Ita for questioning her or checking her phone. Me and my girlfriend have been dating for almost 6 years. I more than likely would have asked her to marry me by now if it wasn't for a few things she does on her end. I'm 28, she's 30, she's a manager at a martini bar and I'm a carpenter, which right off the rip tells you how opposite our schedules are. She works weekends until 1 or 2 a.m. I work weekdays 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., complete opposites. To start, I want to say I'm head over heels for this girl. She has so many great attributes that when I sit down to think about it, she hits every check mark except for a few, what I would consider major, factors. I'm someone who doesn't really enjoy drinking. I enjoy smoking weed after work and relaxing, not really going out to the bar and socializing like she enjoys to do. I've caught her multiple times cheating on me. The first time was a few months after we were talking and she hooked up with another female, oral sex. After that too, I've seen her with my own 2 eyes make out with another female. I also have caught her cuddling with a male friend after a night of drinking in our own house on the couch when I was in our bed alone. I brushed most of this off as something silly due to my attraction to girl-on-girl action, obviously, but the cuddling with her male friend has changed everything. They both pass it off as innocent, just something friends will do. I don't believe this. She also will work late and I'll wake up in bed at 10 or 11 a.m. on Sundays or Saturdays and she will not be home. Her location on her phone has put her location at her male friend's house or bars that she constantly goes to. This has happened on 3 or 4 occasions.